learning about a sumah, what the laws by someone who is blind regarding golut when someone who's blind. We're going to learn about golut regarding such situations, regarding cases of a sonay, someone who hates somebody, kills somebody. Different. We'll see more details about that law as well. Okay, so the Mishnah opens up on Tesam Beis, 9b. Hasonei Asuma. First opens up with the Suma, the first Mishnah. Suma ina gola. The Suma does not go to Golut. That means if the Suma kills someone, the blind person kills someone, he doesn't go to Golut. Now, the question is, what's behind this law that the blind man doesn't go to Golut? Now, obviously, we're talking about a case. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good to see you. We're talking about a case that it seems that it was Bishogate, right? It's not that the blind man goes ahead and he intentionally goes ahead and he kills somebody. You don't need the mission to tell me that the Sumah, that the blind man doesn't go to Golut. What? Okay, so you can say it was actually a shogeg, but you could also say that maybe there are times that the action of a Sumah is not a shogeg. Let's say, good morning, Navid. He's talking to somebody, and someone's in front of him, and he knows the guy's there, and he decides to shoot. Or obviously, that's not the common thing. There's a possibility that a blind person could do something intentionally to kill someone. He feels that somebody's there. He has a knife in his hand. Whatever. There's possibilities that he can intentionally want to try to kill somebody. Whether he was successful or not successful, but he could be grossly negligent in trying to kill somebody. There's a possibility he jumps somebody, tries to beat somebody up. There's a possibility that a sumah. But obviously, the case of the Mishnah is a person of Sumah killed someone unintentionally. The blind man did not mean to kill the person. He didn't know that person was there. He was, let's say, he was chopping wood or whatever he was also doing in the forest, or he was going up a ladder, down a ladder, and he fell. Right? He's been doing that all his years. He's trained himself all the years, and he fell. Now, an average person who falls down a ladder would go to Golut. What about if the blind man falls down a ladder? Would he go to Golut or would he not go to Golut? So the Mishnah says, if it was an accident, even if it was something that we would have called generally a shogeg, he doesn't go to Golut. And we're going to explain what Mr. Safdie said about he doesn't know what he can't, it's hard for him to watch himself. He doesn't know what he's doing. So some understand Rabbi Yehuda, that Rabbi Yehuda's reasoning why the Sumah does not go to Golut is because it's like an ones. It's like, as we explained many times, there are three categories out there, and it's only the middle category of shogeg that the guy goes to exile. If it's close to intentional, he does not go to exile. If the act was anul, something that was really beyond his control, also doesn't go to exile. So only if there's a certain level of negligence, a small amount of negligence, not grossly negligent, but it was an accident, not intended. So Rabbi Yehuda holds we can consider the Sumah like an ones, because he's not able to see. He's not able to see, and he goes in and he kills the person. Like, it's so, there's no real negligence in that situation. However, Rameya is going to say, what does Rameya say? Rameya says, Rameya omegoleh. Rameya says that the Sumah, if he kills somebody, the blind man kills somebody, he will go to exile. Now, the letter of the Rambam, you see on the Mishnah, you see the little letter on the bet on the word Hasumah in the Mishnah. Yaron, do you see in the Mishnah? You see, Mr. Safdie, you see that the bet? Where does that bet take you? That bet to the Rambam, Ein Mishpat, Ne Mitzvah, top right corner, that says bet Maiman Perik Vav Hilchos Pesach Halacha Yudaled. So it seems like basically put the letter over there. It seems that the halacha follows the first opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that the Sumah does not go to exile. But what is the reason of Rav Meir? Rav Meir says that the Sumah goes to exile. Rav Meir says, morning, Mr. Haber. Mr. Haber, we're discussing somebody who killed someone unintentionally, but he was blind. The man who that did the act of murder was a blind man. The question is, would the blind man go to exile or not for this unintentional murder? So there's two opinions in the Mishnah. That's the case that the Mishnah. One opinion in the Mishnah says the first opinion is that the blind man will not go to exile. And the second opinion says he will go to exile. And the reason for the second opinion is that we're not going to consider the blind man as totally innocent. That is an accident, a real accident, as we said, Mr. Haber, a real unintentionally. Let's say he's chopping wood in the forest. He's also chopping wood in the forest. The blind man, he also needs wood to heat, chopping wood. So now, and a piece of wood goes flying, or the axe thing went flying, or the iron of the axe went flying, and he killed somebody. Do we go ahead and say, or he's going down the ladder? He's going down the ladder. He fell off the ladder, and he's done the ladder 1,000 times, or he didn't intend to kill anybody. Now there's a good exile on that. So the first opinion says, Rabbi Yehuda, he doesn't go to Golub. Why? It's an accident. What do you want? He's a blind man. He couldn't really see what was going on. And very good. So that's really the question. Do we look at this as a right? So the question is, do we classify this situation as there's a level of negligence on the behalf of the blind man? Chopping wood or going down a ladder or these type of things. Right. Do we look at that? Or do we say that maybe if we don't look at that as that he's so negligent, either the people around him maybe would have possibly responsibility to, because they know if so that's how some explain the rationale between maybe the people around him have responsibility to be careful. They know he's blind, so they should move away. Right. No, they should, so we don't look at there's a level of negligence on the blind man. Because again, for the blind man, right. So that's the question. Do we look at this situation that maybe he could have done more, because since he's blind, he should have been a little extra more careful, and he could have asked if there are people more around him or not. And therefore, some say that would be the reason why he will go to exile, because there was some level of that he could have been better. And because he could have been better, that should be, this is how someone will explain the reason for the law. It could be, we're going to see that the law is based from the pasuk, meaning to say we're going to find, the Gemara is going to we're going to see where is this machloket based from. But the logic behind, the reason behind the law, this could be the reason. But the main reason might not be, meaning we're explaining, this is how one of the commentaries is, once I want to say one point. The Aruch LaNer, meaning this is how some explain the argument, but the Gemara is going to say the argument is based on how do you understand the pasuk? Meaning, as we all know, you could have a pasuk, you could try to explain the reason of the pasuk, but not necessarily the way you're explaining the reason. You might be suggesting that's the reason of the pasuk, but the pasuk did not tell us specifically that is the reason. Meaning to say, like we found going down a ladder, if someone falls down off a ladder going down, he's chayav. Goes to exile. Going up the ladder, he falls off the ladder. He does not go, if he's on the upward motion and he falls, he does not go to exile. The pasuk doesn't tell us the reason. we could be suggesting what the reason might be, but the plus that we have to see if the Gemara is going to tell us a logical reason, right? But or the Gemara is going to tell you the source, but the source is the pasuk. The pasuk says v'nafal, you were going down the ladder, but that right going down. Yeah. Now the question is, the question will be, will the Gemara explain what's the rationale for that it has to be going down and not going up? Or is it that we are going to try to understand it? We're going to suggest a reason for the law, but that might not be the reason. For instance, the Torah says you should go ahead and not wear shatnez or not eat pork. You could suggest many reasons for the law. The law is based on the fact Torah said. It doesn't give us a reason. So yes, Mr. Safdie, you want to say something? Okay. Meanwhile, the Mishnah makes the statement. There's a dispute whether a blind man goes to exile or not, and we're going to see the main source for the dispute will be the pasuk, based on psukim. That's what they're based on. Hasonei inagola. Then the Mishnah says someone who is an enemy of somebody, someone who hates somebody, and he killed his friend unintentionally. He's an enemy. If he killed him intentionally, there's no question about whether he goes to exile or not. He killed him unintentionally, so he does not go to Galut. The first opinion says he doesn't go to Galut. And what now? Why doesn't go to Galut? So this opinion did not say that we know he did it intentionally. I mean, the guy who's an enemy of somebody, and if he did it unintentionally, now, is it that we say that there's no such thing as unintentional? Because if you hate the guy, most probably you intended to kill the guy. But we all know there could be a case that there was no way he could have known that his enemy was there. Like, or that type of case would be, that's not a case where you're going to say he intended to kill him. He didn't know his enemy was there. There's no way he knew that his enemy was there, and he killed him. Would we say that let's say you didn't know it was your enemy. Somehow a person came in, and the guy, it was nighttime, and you couldn't see. And it happened that and there was this shogeg happen in such a situation. What would you say then? Would you say because he's an enemy, he doesn't go to exile? Or do you say it was clearly unintentional? Right? So he makes the statement. He doesn't clarify, he doesn't make a distinction in different cases. Morning, Mike. He doesn't make a distinction.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Morning. He doesn't, we're on Tet number base, 9b. He doesn't make a difference. The Mishnah says, the first opinion says, someone who's a soneh. If someone hates somebody, he does not go to exile. If you're an enemy of somebody, someone's an enemy of someone and kills that person unintentionally, he doesn't go to exile. Under all circumstances, this opinion holds. Why? The Torah says the person who goes to exile is someone who is not an enemy. If you're an enemy and you killed the person, the Torah doesn't give a reason. You could say there's a good chance, most cases, when an enemy kills somebody, no, it most probably not. Exile is usually beneficial for a person because exile will be a kapara. You don't give him that opportunity of exile. You don't give him the opportunity of kapara. Today is Rosh Chodesh. We're going to say in the Rosh Chodesh davening, we say Zman kapara l'chol todotav. Today is a day of atonement for all the people of the community, and that's why Rosh Chodesh is such a special day. One of the reasons why we say Happy Rosh Chodesh. So it's a good day. The Gemara says there was no Hayom Tov Yisrael. There was no greater holiday than Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur was such a happy day, even though it's a very intense davening, but it's a very happy day. We should also look forward to Yom Kippur. Why should we look for Yom Kippur? Because we're going to be forgiven for our sins. It's a great day. So therefore, if going to exile is a kapara, it's an opportunity for a person to be forgiven. But if he's not going to have that opportunity, so then God's going to have to collect some other way. So that seems to be. But again, usually the idea is the punishment needs to fit the crime. And we say if a guy was negligent in his actions and he killed someone out of negligence, even though he didn't intend to kill the person, but the fact that he was negligent, well, exile is not enough. It's not enough of an atonement. He needs more than that. Correct? And therefore, he doesn't have that privilege of atonement. Atonement is a privilege. And the best thing is people have atonement without going through pains and sufferings. And then, you know, you learn Torah, that's a great atonement. And when you daven Musaf, the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh is instead of the Korban. So therefore, when you daven today on Rosh Chodesh, the Musaf is like you're bringing the Korban, and therefore you will get forgiven for your sins. Yes, Safety. Enemy have to do what? Right. And there's no way he didn't even see the enemy coming, right? Right. But again, interesting, the pasuk says, Asher yavoas ve'eu b'yah. The case of the Torah is that you came into the forest and you were with your friend. You came in together with your friend. But let's say he was in the forest and he was with the enemy, but he was chopping wood and he wasn't intending in any way to kill his enemy, but his enemy got killed. So this opinion says he does not go to exile. What could be the reason for it? Because the common case of an enemy killing an enemy is usually intended to, it's careless, but he's happy to do it. He's intended, there's some intention generally. So therefore, even if there will be a case that he will not be careless, we're not, across the board, the law will be, the Torah says, you don't go to exile. You don't go to exile somebody who is an enemy of somebody and he killed them. That's not the case. When the Torah sets up the case of going to exile, it sets up the case for normal circumstances that it's common, that it's an act, that it's an unintentional act. But if the people that are involved are somebody who is the type of person, generally, who is a type of person who's happy to intend to kill this person, or doesn't mind death so much with that person, or is the type of person who many times will be careless in the killing of the person, we're not going to say, okay, go to exile. Could be that people, maybe the community will look at it like it's a joke. It's a joke. You send the enemy to exile for killing his enemy. People will say, you think it was unintentional. And therefore they're going to lose faith maybe in the system. So perhaps that could be reason behind the law of this halacha, that the pasuk talk, the understanding of this opinion is the type of person, when the Torah writes about the case of going to exile, it's talking about a case of a person who's not a person who hates the other person. Read it for what? Why they don't. Yeah, because they say from the language of the pasuk that they say that the pasuk is talking about someone who's not an enemy. The case of the Torah, of the type of person that the Torah is talking about, when you're not an enemy of the person, when you're doing the act, see the pasuk. Right, but if you're an enemy of the person, see the pasuk says, see, I think based on that, let's see if they, you see the pasuk says, so listen to that. It looks funny that what? That an enemy would go to exile or something else? He didn't mean it, right. He didn't know his enemy. Right, but very good. Look at note number 8. You see, Mr. Hebrew. 9B. 9b8. Mike, you got it? We are on
The pasuk, Rabbi?
the pasuk here. They're going to quote a pasuk. They say the pasuk in the art scroll. I don't know if you have the art scroll in page 9b1 on the bottom, note 8. Right earlier, the pasuk says below Eva that when you kill the person, kill them without hatred, without malice. Only someone who kills without hatred is the person who goes to exile. If you kill them without hatred, an enemy who kills someone who kills his enemy kills out of hatred. Based on the pasuk, the Tanakama rules that even if the enemy killed in a manner that was not intentional, he still does not go into exile. So the way it seems like they're saying is that the case of the Torah is the case of the Torah is a type of person that kills somebody is a below Eva, a type of person who does not hate not only the act was done without hatred, the type of person who doesn't hate the other guy. But if you are a type of person that hates the other guy, you don't go to exile, even if it's clear, morning, Dr. Navid, that you were not intending to kill that person. Okay, we'll see more about it, but we're just going to read again the language of the Mishnah. We're back on the Mishnah on Tet Amud Beis. Dr. Navid is here, and we say shalom. Good morning to Dr. Navid. So it says Hasonei Einon Goleh. He says the enemy doesn't go to exile. Now that means we don't kill the enemy or kill the other guy. He just doesn't go to exile. If he enemy kills the other enemy, it seems like he did it unintentionally. He doesn't go to exile. He doesn't say he gets killed. Doesn't get killed either. Okay. Now comes Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says an amazing statement. What does he say about an enemy? First of all, what is called an enemy? How do you define an enemy? You know, the guy killed someone and say an enemy doesn't go to exile. So the Rambam says, if you didn't speak to somebody for 3 days because of that hatred that you have to that person, that's called you're angry with the person and you have some hate and you don't speak to the guy. That's a sign of an enemy. So if people can't talk to other people, if people are not able to communicate at 3 days. Now, nobody should have a fight with anybody for 1 day, but it seems like 3 days, it's like, we find chazakah, the number 3 times, 3 days. We find also the Gemara by animals doing damage. So 3 days, so here we find 3 days is, according to the Rambam, that's already a significant amount of time. And 3 days have passed and you still don't talk to the guy. As a result, that's you really have, you would define, now you have made yourself an enemy of this person. And it could be, no, you saw the friend, you see your friend, you have opportunity for 3 days to talk to your friend. You come to shul, and every day after shul, you have an opportunity to talk to your friend, and it would be normal for you to talk to your friend, not during shul davening, right, Mike? Only after the shul. And then what happened was, you didn't speak to him. Why are you not speaking to him? The reason why I'm not speaking to him, I'm saying, but if the case is, I am able to see him, I'm in the office with him, we work together in the office, and 3 days come, every day, I would generally talk to the man, I bump into him in the office, and the reason why I am avoiding him, I am not talking to him, is you know why? Because I'm very angry with the man. That's the case. That seems to be the case. We built the case, Ms. Neighbor, you buy it? We got a sale, okay. That's the, others say, that's the Rambam. the Shuvas HaGaonim say, if people recognize that he's your enemy, that you hate him, because let's say you're snitching on the guy, trying to get the guy in trouble, and you're trying to cause as much trouble. Good morning. If you're trying to cause as much trouble as you can to that guy, everybody knows that you're his enemy. You're writing letters about him. That's another definition of how do we know who is an enemy of somebody that falls in this category. The Mishnah continues. Rabbi Yossi Omer. Rabbi Yossi says we're learning Makkos about someone unintentionally killing somebody, and when I was discussing about an enemy killing somebody, it looks unintentional. What do we say about that enemy? Will he go to exile like anybody else who kills someone unintentionally? So that's the discussion. Rabbi Yossi, the first opinion is that Sonei Eina Goleh. The enemy does not go to exile if he kills his enemy. Doesn't go to exile. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Hasoni Neherak. He takes it another step further. The enemy, we got that doctrine of it, Hasoni Neherak. He gets killed for killing his enemy. Why? Meshehu Kamuat. Because you could bet, Rashi says, you could bet that he intentionally killed him. Now, that's in a case, obviously, in a case where you could say that it was done intentional, I didn't mean to kill, but someone said, I didn't mean to kill the guy. But it's possible you didn't mean to kill the guy. It's possible. You went ahead and you were, running somewhere. And then you knocked the guy over and you killed him. But you didn't mean, and you bumped into him. So was it really unintentional? You bumped into him unintentionally, or you really intentionally had in mind to knock him to the ground, or whatever. I don't know if it's a good type of example, but you could say that type of case, it could be interpreted two ways. So, but if he's an enemy, he says that you could it's as if he intentionally did it. You could, in the certain morning, Mike, that the Chodesh Tov, that you could bet that this was done intentionally. And so excellent. That's the Gemara is going to say that this opinion holds that he says that different than what we hold in Halacha. In Halacha, we hold you have to actually give a warning prior to the act of violence that happened. But this opinion holds that the whole purpose of warning is to ascertain that this act was done intentionally, not unintentionally. If you don't warn somebody, a guy goes ahead and he's using a razor on his beard. So you need to warn him beforehand, because if you don't warn him, then he could say, I didn't know I did anything wrong. I didn't know I'm doing a sin. I didn't mean to do a sin. I didn't know. But that's the purpose of making sure that the person is doing something wrong and is intentionally doing the sin. But the fact that you gave the guy a warning, now you know that it was done with intent. The warning creates a knowledge of intent. This opinion holds that if he's an enemy, there's intent there already. If the enemy is killing, if enemy kills somebody, you don't need to, maybe he didn't mean to do it. No, he means to do it.
How do you warn a deaf person or a blind person?
A blind person, he hears. You warn him, you tell him, don't, if a blind person kills, I don't believe we have to look up the halacha. I don't believe a blind person is excluded from the prohibition of murder. Meaning, if he murders someone, he's obligated death. The fact that he's blind, so you warn the blind man beforehand, you can't murder this person. If a blind man wants to beat someone up to kill a person, he's obligated death. He's included. A blind man is obligated in mitzvot. In general, a blind man is chayav in mitzvot. There is a question in the Gemara if a blind man is obligated in mitzvot or not. It seems the conclusion is that a blind man is obligated in mitzvot. He has to daven, he has to pray. Obviously, if there's something that he can't do because he's blind, something called ones v'achmana patrei. Ones, he can't be, it's not beyond his control. But in general, there might be certain mitzvot that the Torah talks about vision, that mentions vision, So then maybe we have to see what they, how they apply, Ola Regel or something, going to Ola Regalim. We have to see maybe there's certain individual cases that might be exceptions possibly to the rule. But the general rule is there are 613 mitzvot in general. He's obligated in the mitzvot. That's the general rule of a blind person. Here the question is regarding going to Galut. Will he go to Galut or not? If he kills someone unintentionally. But here we're talking about an enemy. So Rabbi Yossi says that an enemy, he's like he's warned. And it's something that that he's doing it intentionally. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. He doesn't, which would seem to be if an enemy kills someone in a way that could be interpreted intentionally. There's two ways to interpret it. Again, if there's a case that an enemy kills someone and there's no way that he knew it was his enemy, no way he knew it, that's not the case that he's talking about. The case was, it's your enemy, but the question is he covering up and he just made it look like he was unintentional or not? This opinion says he holds it's definitely intentional. It didn't happen because there was that's how he understands. And like we said, he holds you don't need that warning beforehand because we know the intent. Dave, is that clear to answer your question? Now, Rav Shimon says, Yesh sonei goleh, v'yesh sonei she'ena goleh. There's an enemy that goes to exile, who kills his enemy. This depends on the case. He's going to explain. And v'yesh sonei she'ena goleh. There's an enemy that doesn't go to exile. So let's say this opinion, and it'll explain. Zeh klal. Meaning he says an enemy, to him, it's not this way or that way. There's the middle ground. The first opinion of the Mishnah says there's only one. He said the first opinion says sonei eino goleh. An enemy does not go to exile under all circumstances. Someone's an enemy of somebody, kills the person unintentionally, whatever the case is. If you're an enemy of the person, you do not wind up in exile. Exile, when the Torah talks about exile, it's not talking about somebody who's an enemy of someone who kills someone. If you're an enemy, exile doesn't apply to you. Clear, Michael? The second opinion of the Mishnah says, if you're an enemy and you killed that person, we're actually going to kill the person who was the enemy. If you're an enemy of somebody, even if it looks unintentional, or it seems, not that we know for sure it's unintentional, we're going to actually kill an enemy for killing somebody that looks, you can interpret to be unintentional, because he holds it's not unintentional. That's Rabbi Yossi. The second thing that I said is Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says enemy doesn't go to exile. The Torah parasha of exile does not apply to an enemy. And we said a slur before, perhaps, because it looks like a joke. He sends an enemy to exile. People might say, it looks like, wait a minute, he goes to exile. The world might think it's a joke because he's in exile. It's unintentional. People won't believe it. Rav Shimon says he's in between. There'll be an enemy that will go to exile, and there'll be an enemy that will not go to exile. Rabbi Shimon Omer, what? Depending on the circumstances. Depending on the circumstances. Rabbi Shimon says it depends. Zeh klal. Kol shehu yochel lomar l'dat harak. If you could say that this guy intended to kill this enemy, meaning to say it's up for interpretation. We don't know. It could have been intentional, and he's making believe it's unintentional. It was an accident, or it was actually an accident, unintentional. It's not, it's up for the average guy, you would say, it's unintentional. But this guy, because he's an enemy, there's a possibility that he really was intended to kill the guy. So, two people in the forest, and according to the Chachamim, if the iron of the axe goes flying, you're obligated. First, it goes to exile. If the iron goes flying, right? The iron part goes flying. Maybe he actually intentionally had the iron loose, and his enemy was there near him chopping wood. He had it loose because he was intending to kill the guy. Or possibly no, maybe it wasn't loose. We don't know. So in that case, we say you can't go to exile. We're not going to send the guy to exile when you could say there was intent. But however, if we know that there was not intent to kill, we tested the axe right before he was chopping the wood. And the axe was in 100% great shape. And then boom, he's chopping wood and the iron came off. We did a test right before. We checked the axe. We were concerned, but it's an enemy. You're chopping wood. The enemy's also renting space and chopping wood over here. We were concerned. And then you know what happened? It went flying. So this clearly he wasn't intending to kill his enemy. Let's say, because of so in such a case, or let's say a better case would be you were going down the ladder, and let's say you fell off the ladder, and the guy underneath the ladder, the identity of the guy was not, he was wearing a mask or whatever. And you couldn't tell, no one could see who he was. And then, but it happened to come out that it was his enemy. So in such a case, Hari Zegoleh, he'll go to exile in such a case. So that's the three-way machloket regarding this. Just want to say that we'll be back tomorrow, B'ez Hashem. And questions regarding Monday. Anybody plan on? I'm available Monday. The question is, are people available Monday, and what time? You won't be here. Mr. Haber, will you be on Monday? Not be on Monday. Yaron? So we will talk about Monday. If the question, Mr. Safdie is available at 6:45 on Monday. It's 7:30 and 8:30 minyan. So Yaron, we'll talk about Monday. Okay. Good morning. We have a class here Monday through Friday. You're invited every day. Have a great day. Chodesh Tov, everybody.
Rabbi, Mazal Tov.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you so much.
Rabbi, can you tell me what's the translation of the first word of the Mishnah Hasome? What's Hasome? I missed the first part.
A suma is someone who is blind. Suma, the word suma, sam is like, it comes from closed off. He's blind, he can't see. So a suma, if someone who is blind and he killed someone unintentionally, does he go to exile or not? So that's the machloket. Thank you very much, Mr. David. So that's the machloket in the Mishnah. The first opinion says that suma, the blind man ain't a goleh. The blind man does not go to exile if he kills someone unintentionally. And the second opinion, that's what the mayor says goleh. He does go to exile. So that's the question. If a blind man is going down a ladder and he falls and he kills someone, does he go to exile or not? And we're going to see the Gemara on Monday, tomorrow, we'll discuss more details of this law.
Rabbi, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for joining. Mike, it's a pleasure having you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Have a great day, Rabbi.
Great day. You too, Mike. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.